Hello and welcome back to the podcast, We Are Selling. My name's Lee Woodward, the author of the Complete Salesperson course. Today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Nexar. Nexar is a dedicated real estate platform specialising in lead generation and database management of the entire real estate company for BDMs and agents working as one platform to generate opportunity. Nexar seamlessly integrates into your business systems, allowing you to have an extended solution. Let's get started with this week's episode. Our agent on the ground in LA is the incredible Mr. Glen Coutinho. Many years ago, Glen decided to pick up the entire family, leave his incredible career in Melbourne to go to LA, start all over again as an agent, and he joins us now. Glen, welcome aboard.
Hey Lee, how are you? Welcome to New York City, I believe you're in, correct?
I'm in New York, and Glen, on a serious note, how is LA?
LA is amazing. Even though you thought it was 45 minutes away, it's like 7 or 8 hours, but yeah, LA is pretty good. It's unusual times over here with all the fires, which I'm sure you've seen. So it's testing times for realtors, agents, owners, the whole lot. We're working our way through it.
Yeah, Glen, the scenes have been absolutely devastating, and a big reason I wanted to cross to you. What's the effect on yourself, the community, and how is the community?
It's a little shocked because, well, we have an office in the Palisades that has 100 staff in there, and that burnt to the ground. We have at least a dozen of our agents who lost their houses, and you can imagine if you worked in the Palisades and you've lost your house, you can't go to work, you can't work from home, and you lost your car. So that's on the real estate perspective. And then most of your clients have everyone's lost their house. It's probably a 5 to 7 year rebuild. So it's pretty messy. And of course, there's legislations because of its natural disaster. Legislation's really heavy here too. So you got to be very careful about how you price property. You can't, as an agent, you can't prospect anyway. You're not allowed to do that. So that's been outlawed in certain areas. So agents don't really know what to do. You know, you have to be very careful about how you run your business at the moment. But, you know, with the new government taking place, the market was due for a kick anyway, and it felt like it was going to take off with the new government taking over. And now you've thrown 10,000 people onto a market to buy or rent houses. There's more demand right now than there has been in 100 years.
Now, this legislation side of it is very serious. At the Inman conference, I was listening to the new CEO of NAR and that lawsuit and settlement. I think the first payment's about to go through of $200 million.
Yep.
What happened?
The reason that all happened is because though agents were forced to put a fee that they were paying in the MLS magazine, and they were saying that that's the main reason. That's not allowed anymore. If an agent's offering a commission, you've got to ring and ask them, what's your commission? Are you paying a buyer's fee? But in the past, it was just advertised, and it was forced to be advertised. So that's where it all came from. But the legislation now in relation to the fires is completely different. It's to do with price gouging. And my boss, who's amazing, just said, listen, if you're going out to get your newspaper from the front door, make sure you're not in your underwear because you might get arrested. And they are arresting agents.
Wow.
It's a 1 year jail term and a felony and a $10,000 fine. So it's pretty serious if you overprice anything.
That is just unbelievable, especially for yourself, Glen, who's come from an auction background where this could go anywhere. And you've also got it in the rental market that will take us into that because the rental market is going through the same challenge.
It's more to do with the rental market. For example, you put a property on the market now for $8,000 and you think you're doing a great job and you get 20 applications and you pick one at 10, then you're in the cell with Bubba. It's all over. So you can't rent it for over the list price. You have to price it at last year's prices, which I think is a good thing. I mean, it is price gouging when you're taking advantage of people that are in trouble. So they've done that in place, but obviously some people don't follow it, and it just causes a lot of stress. You just got to be very careful. I'm just not doing any rentals because it's too dangerous for your business.
So, Glen, as an agent, and you're very well known in the Australian real estate marketplace, not just for your incredible results, auctioneering, you also did training over in Australia for us as well. How does it feel to be the difference of an agent in LA versus what you did? Like for our listener trying to understand how you guys have to work, which is very different. What is that difference?
Yeah, it is very different. And I think that the weird thing is coming here when you've got 38 years experience in real estate and you come here as a newbie, you really have to take a minute and recalibrate your mindset because you think, you know what, I actually don't know what I'm doing. I don't know north, south, east, and west. When I first got here, I couldn't point to the beach. That's a really bad thing when you're in real estate to not be able to tell people where the beach is. You pronounce all the street names wrong. You don't know the school zones. Somebody tells you they live in Melbourne, they say you live in Monomeath Avenue and you know exactly it's the best street in town. When they tell me that here, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, that's tough.
So that is, and not knowing the school zones, not knowing the religions, there's a lot to know. Realtors is about being in a location for a long time. So moving from one country to another is madness.
Now, Glenn, you're very fortunate that you're the author of The People Lover and have been able to get some great results from your connection to humans, then property. Why do you think they're selecting you over the American model?
I just have follow-up systems in place. I keep in touch with people for a long time. If I meet somebody here today, they're my best friend within a day. I met this lady the other day and her husband and I had, her name, her wife's name, her kids' names, all their birthdays, football side, and it's a lifelong, I look for a lifelong connection and then the real estate follows. My last client, when I bought a car off him, I delivered 10 boxes of pizzas to the dealership and ended up listing a house for them. So I kind of go out and make an impact everywhere I go, a friendly impact. Don't fight with anyone. Made great friends with all my competitors. Every time I close a deal in LA, I send the competitors cakes and chocolates. Nobody sends me anything, but I always send them something. And, you just be the nicest guy in town. I think that's the easiest way to do it.
Now, tell me, when I look at these devastating fires, and no matter where you sell real estate in the world, there is a land value, and then there is the property improvement value, which is now called the dwelling. With some of those famous, very high-priced dwellings that are now just a block of land, what do you do with, or what does the owner do with the lost wealth?
Well, unless it was insured, because remember, a lot of the insurance companies pulled the insurance on people a year ago because it's such a fire zone. So a lot of those properties probably could have halved in value because you've got the land value, but if you've got a $50 million house on it, if you go and buy a block of land in those areas now, by the time you get through the city, which is probably 3 years, and then by the time you build a house, you're going to be living in a war zone for 10 years. Every house in the street is going to be being built at the same time. And then there's also the contamination of the water and everything else. So, I'm not sure people are going to go back there, to be honest, for a long time. It'll be a whole new generation. And I think people that owned houses there will say, you know what, 5 years of my life, I'm not going to go through going back there. And even if you had a house there now and it didn't get burnt, like we've got clients that have got houses that survived, they don't want to go back and live in a building site for 5 years. It's nothing but trucks going through. And if you are living there, there's no shop, supermarket, there's no butcher, there's no cinema, there's nothing. It's just completely gone. So it is devastating times. And where we live in the valley, we had to pack. So, they told us to have all your stuff packed, which is a really weird thing. My wife said everyone has to pack their bag tonight because we might get notice to go.
Yeah.
So she had her bag and her passport packed. Everyone was packed. I only had one thing packed. You know what it was?
No.
My Carlton beanie. I didn't pack anything else. I still refused to pack. I got my Carlton beanie. I'm ready to go.
So, Glenn, what will you do now? What's your plan as an agent who's just gone through a life-changing experience? You're in a different country. You've just changed brand, which is an interesting thing in itself. And just on that, what's the type of property you're selling now?
So I've moved from, obviously, Harcourts, who are amazing. I love working with them. I moved to Rodeo, which has sort of been here for 60 years. They sold the Godfather house for 60 million. They've got a couple other deals for 80 and 100 million. So I went to a really well-known 60-year established brand, probably because I think for me, I just don't have time to rebuild another brand at the age of 60. And, you walk into a house here and you're up against, biggest agents in town. You really need some power behind you. And now, we're pitching on houses every day for 10, 20, 30. I pitched on one for 100 million. I haven't got it, but I pitched on it, got in the door. I wouldn't have got in unless I was at a brand like Rodeo. Rodeo opened the door for me, and then it's on me to win or lose it.
Now tell me, and I know we can't mention any names, but
No.
Us being way over the other side of the world in Australia, what's the type of owner of a property of 100 million? What's their background? How do you change your interview process?
Yeah, the sort of person that owned that house was actually originally owned by Conrad Hilton. So Hilton Hotels, that's the sort of person that owns that. Or, you've got houses around here. Beyonce, they bought one for 190 million in Malibu. the owner of WeChat, Facebook owners, Tesla, those sort of people are up in the hills. People that own shares in Facebook and people that, Ellen DeGeneres and Justin Bieber, all those people are up there. They're not my friends. I don't know them, but I'd like to say I did, but I don't know them. But they all sell houses all the time up here. They all move, Stallone. That's the sort of clientele you're dealing with at that end of the market. Generally tech or big, the owners of Walmart, all those sort of people are the people that live in Beverly Hills. And actors, all the actors live around here. All the movie stars, Leonardo DiCaprio, the boys went to a party the other night and Leonardo was there. So, they get to bump into all those people at these famous events. I don't get in, I'm too old, but the young kids get in. They're all buying and selling real estate. Our average price, the stuff that we're doing is probably, I'd like to say, $5 million, which is, and then when you get to that $30 to $40 million range, you really either have to have been here for a long time or gone to school with somebody or you can get lucky sometimes. And for me, I just make my own luck and I double my call rate. And in this market that's changed, I started on the 1st of January and I went back to when I started with James Toston and back to 100 calls a day. So I was always doing 40 anyway. I'm a 40 call a day, 6 days a week guy, have been all my life, but I'm back to 100 because I had to restart.
And Glenn, in those 100 calls, what's on the call menu for Glen Coutinho? Take me through how you do those calls.
At the moment, it's people that I know that have been affected by the fires, really to see if they're okay. And that's all. No more. You can't really go any deeper than that. But it's also lawyers, doctors, bankers looking for business. I'm asking people today, do you have anyone that needs any real estate help? I rang some divorce lawyers today to make connections. I try to ring 2 or 3 divorce lawyers a week, just in case someone leaves me or in case they have the opportunity. They're all looking for agents, mortgagee sales, banks, bankruptcy sales. I just prospect all day. The key to being a successful agent in any market, in anywhere in the world, is 75% of your day is prospecting. And I'm probably the only person you'll meet in real estate in a suit and tie, but I won't go to work without. And everyone else does. I just don't. In LA, it's a T-shirt business, but not me.
And I love that about you and your brand. Wherever you go, and I've seen you at some big celebrity parties, you've still got your name tag on.
I still wear my name tag. I get shit for it. All the time, but I always wear my name tag everywhere I go. You know why? I get business. I've got Rodeo Real Estate on the side of my car, on the back of my car, and I picked up a $3 million listing at the petrol station, and I picked up a $1 million buyer at Walmart because they came up and saw it on the side of my car. So I know what works. People don't like it. I don't want to brand my car. That's fine, but I get 3 listings a year off it, so that works for me. And then I do my socials every day, 7 days a week.
Following your life on socials, I feel closer to you now than when you're in Melbourne because all these wonderful things that you're doing. And just on that, our listener, especially for the UK and Australia, they'd have no idea that you picked up the whole family, moved to LA, and that was because your boys had a passion and a goal for music. The boys have done some incredible things over this time. How are they going?
They're great. They just put out a couple of albums, a single. They've opened up a couple of shows. They got a big break. They got to open up Luke Bryan in Florida, which was huge. It was about 10,000 people. They just got to open for Chainsmokers at an event down here in LA. So they're on their way to some pretty big things. They had some meetings with some big management companies and, their time will come, but they're committed to the process. They write and produce all their own music and they put out a song virtually every week. So, they're on top of their game, and when it breaks, you'll know about it. They'll be, they came here to be world famous, and their music was played in 178 countries last year.
Wow.
I think they missed 8 countries, so that's not a bad win for them.
Well, I love when you post the video clips. As you know, I'm passionate about music, but trying to break in where the boys are is just the hardest thing in the world, and to do what they've done is absolutely amazing. But that didn't just happen from music. It's you teaching them how to connect with people. You still get them to write thank you cards to people. Take us into that.
Yeah, it's funny because I was at an event the other night and I went up to this guy and said, let's connect on Instagram and give me your cell phone. And the guy said, I just met your sons. They've got it all already. So they're hunters, They chase, follow up, go to events. They don't party or get drunk or do stupid stuff. They're hustlers. And if they met you today, you'd have a text before you went to bed and a follow-up card. And, they have hustle in them. That's all I gave them, hustle. I didn't give them any talent, but they have hustle. And they're humble, and that's the most important thing. Is that when with fame you lose your humble, they won't lose that. They have really good people skills, and they'll talk to the average guy on the street, the cleaner, and the billionaire, and that's really important. That they've been, people's moral compass as children is set by the time they're 12. It's hard to change So unless you get it right at an early age, it's all over.
Couldn't agree more. And your daughter, Brooke, she's in the business as well.
Yeah, so Brooke's my business partner here at Rodeo. She runs the office. We have 60 agents out of this office, our little office at Rodeo Realty. And so we have 60 agents here, and then she closes a few deals herself. She's actually closed a couple of big ones coming recently, and then she just went to Australia for 3 weddings. She'll be back in a couple of weeks, but she's in Melbourne at the moment. But no, she's a powerhouse. She runs dance classes as well as a side hustle, and she'll have 50 people in a dance class, and then she's back at work. And if you message her at 5 a.m, she'll reply. If you message me, you're going to get, I might be a couple of hours behind her, but she's up and out the door at 5, and she's got the greatest work ethic I've ever seen.
Well, Glenn, I'm so glad that everyone's safe. You're okay. This time in LA is just undescribable. No one's seen anything like it. And here at Inman, when I'm at the conference, they brought up the footage, the scenery on the big screens.
Yep.
And there was tears everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. I mean, we've lived through it. We've driven through it. I've walked it. It's like being in a war zone in another country. And it's a long time to come back. But, people here are pretty resilient. LA always seems to have tragedies all the time, and they seem to bounce back all the time. And, there are a few agents that cop a hard time, but most of them do. Every agent I know is out doing charities, delivering food, cooking for people, buying presents for people, offering their house to people. The real estate community is pretty good in that aspect. Unfortunately, there's a small percentage that bend the rules and destroy it for everyone else, as in every business, but most of the people here are pretty good at it.
Well, Glen Coutinho, thank you for joining us on the program We Are Selling, and we look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Okay, mate. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.